Welcome, I'm Yvonne, and here's what happened this week. A controversial reform bill that triggered fistfights among lawmakers and huge protests on the streets is being sent back to the legislature. The cabinet is asking lawmakers to review the bill, saying it is unconstitutional. Yvonne explains.
After dramatic fights between Taiwan's lawmakers to pass an opposition-led legislative reform bill, the country's executive branch is sending it back.
比对之后，我们再一次的确认，条文的内容有违宪，也有窒碍难行之处，所以我们依宪政的秩序跟设计，提出复议。
Taiwan's premier is calling on the legislature to reconsider recently passed amendments, which opposition party lawmakers say aim to improve government oversight. The cabinet has called some clauses unconstitutional and is now waiting for President Lai Ching-te's approval for their motion.
总统收到了行政院的复议理由书之后，将会审慎评估，再做出妥适的决定。
Just a day after Lai's inauguration on May 20th, tensions rose between lawmakers over measures that would give the legislature new investigative powers, like the right to hold hearings and punish officials who don't comply. The ruling Democratic Progressive Party accused the opposition Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party for using their combined majority to force the bill's passage without the usual clause-by-clause discussion. Viewing the reforms as harmful to Taiwan's freedom and democracy, tens of thousands of people protested outside the legislature and around the country. In a movement dubbed Bluebird, named after the street outside the legislative building. If forced to review, the legislature must re-vote within 15 days. The Kuomintang's caucus whip warned the premier to think twice about the move.
如果复议不成功，请问卓荣泰院长，你愿意负政治责任辞职下台吗？请不要把这个当儿戏。
Meanwhile, DPP lawmakers have said they would challenge the bill at the Constitutional Court, a last resort to override the changes to the law. Depending on what President Lai decides, this legislative floor could be seeing more dramatic brawls break out over these measures to expand legislative power. Now, Lai cannot directly veto these bills since the president does not have such power here in Taiwan. But what could happen is that if the cabinet's request goes through and if the legislature fails to hold a vote within 15 days, this contested bill could be blocked without having to go through court. Patrick Chen and Joyce Lin in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's newly appointed defense minister has outlined to lawmakers how he plans to secure Taiwan's defenses. Wellington Koo pointed to China as the country's biggest threat. He says the military is focused on getting more weapons from the United States and further reforming its training. In his first address to the legislature as defense minister, Koo also said increased cooperation with the United States can help add to deterrence.
我们所要的当然还是强化我们的自我防卫的能力，加入这个整个美国印太战略，它所谓的形成一个有效嚇阻里面的一环。
How to improve the country's maritime safety has been the focus of discussion in Taipei at a special conference organized by the country's Ocean Affairs Council. Security experts from around the world are at the event to give their insights. Jaime Ocon reports.
Maritime security and protection of sea lanes is one of the most important areas for Taiwan's defense, as it is an island nation. That's why Taiwan's Ocean Affairs Council has organized a group of naval security experts from almost a dozen countries. But this conference comes just 2 weeks after China conducted large-scale exercises in response to the inauguration speech of newly elected President Lai Ching-te. The exercise saw China's Navy surround Taiwan with military ships and focus on operations near the main island. But at the same time, China utilized its Coast Guard to harass and put pressure on Taiwan's outlying islands. Analysts say it's these kinds of gray zone tactics that are posing a new challenge to Taiwan, as it now has to deal with a variety of threats.
China's numerical advantages are more severe because it can put so much force on the scene. And eventually Taiwan is going to have to make some difficult choices. It can't be everywhere all at once. So the Taiwanese government will have to decide where does it really need to hold the line and push back, and where does it need to adapt.
Experts here say that Taiwan should be playing a more active role in areas like intelligence sharing and communication. But the message here is that Taiwan isn't alone in maintaining security in the Taiwan Strait, and that can rely on other like-minded partners in the region. Alex Chen and Jaime Ocon in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is warning its nationals to be cautious when traveling to China. That's after a member of a Taiwanese tour group was detained, the first time that's happened. The person was held for several days and wasn't released until days after the rest of the group returned to Taiwan. The reason is still being investigated. The government says the risk of being detained has increased since China expanded national security and anti-spying laws. AI is a buzzword in the tech world, and it's being heard everywhere at this year's Computex. As Chris Gorin reports, the buzz won't be going away anytime soon.
Artificial intelligence, or AI, is coming your way. That's been the key theme this year at one of the biggest computer expos in the world, Computex, held in Taipei. With keynote speeches from CEOs and tons of tech on display, everyone here is trying to showcase what AI can do for you. Would you like to walk through a complete digital replica of your factory in another country? AI can help with that. Or maybe you want to play a mystery video game where none of the dialogue is scripted. I'm hoping to find Martin Davis.
And why exactly do you want to find him?
That's a good question. Why am I trying to find him?
You could just say you're trying to deliver a package.
He owes me a lot of money.
Sorry to disappoint, but we're not in the business of loan sharks here.
Whether for gaming or manufacturing, these AI tools rely on cutting-edge hardware to perform these tasks in real time. There's no shortage of flashy new hardware here at Computex, and one product that's been played up both on the keynote stage and here on the show floor are AI PCs, like this. AI PCs have hardware that can perform or accelerate AI functions on the device itself, rather than relying on cloud services online. Microsoft's Copilot PCs are the first to market themselves as AI PCs, so what can they do? Using AI image generation, a few basic strokes and a text prompt can produce an image of a treehouse. It can perform real-time translation on any video or phone call. And one function, known as Recall, takes screenshots of everything you do on your PC. So if you forget which document, video, website, or photo you were looking at, it can help bring it back by searching with text or images. But the technology is still in its early days.
觉得目前使用上还有点局限在，就是可能指令要下得非常正确，跟很明确，它才有办法产出我们心目中想要的东西。
I don't have any privacy concern per se, but right now I'm yet to discover how it will make my life easier.
我觉得就是 AI 的 PC 的话很方便，可是如果一直用的话，总有一天人脑会退化。
But those working in the industry say this is just the beginning.
I think it's going to be really early, and it might be the hype might really be beyond the actual product itself. But for us, I think where we really want to stick this out is really in the 3 to 4 year term, where we believe that on-device AI is going to be a game changer.
And he's not the only one. Market analysts are predicting that within 4 years, 70% of PCs being shipped will be AI capable. The technology is new, and the full range of applications are still in development. But one thing this year's Computex has shown is that AI is coming, whether you're ready or not. Andy Shrey and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Record rent and produce prices are driving up Taiwan's Consumer Price Index. The index, which measures the average price of consumer goods, grew 2.24% in May, up over 0.2% compared to the same period last year, and surpassing the 2% inflation warning mark. Officials say unstable weather is driving up produce prices. Rent increases also hit a 28-year high in May, going up by 2.6% year-on-year. Hospitals are looking to a new class of fresh nursing school graduates to help fill thousands of vacancies. But nurses groups say more incentives are needed as wait times grow, bed numbers shrink, and nurses, fed up with it all, leave the profession. John Van Trieste has the story.
Ms. Zhao has been in the emergency room since the morning with a suspected kidney infection. If her wait time is anything like normal in Taiwan these days, it could be up to 3 days before she gets a proper hospital bed. And if she needs surgery, she may have to wait another 2 weeks. The long wait times are down to a major shortage of nurses. Just 60% of registered nurses in Taiwan are still working in medicine. Many have left the profession since the COVID-19 pandemic. This has left 24,000 vacant positions across the country. There have been efforts to make the job less stressful. Strict nurse-to-patient ratios put in place in March mean hospital staff aren't given more work than they can handle, and that patients aren't in danger of being neglected by overworked nurses. Hospital administrators are happy with this change, at least to a point.
我觉得这个是一个对护理人员一个友善职场的一个表现。
The problem is this same measure forces hospitals to keep many available beds empty, up to 30% in some cases. There just aren't enough nurses to go around, which means longer wait times for patients. And even with fewer patients to care for, nurses are still calling it quits.
所有的医院都提出了很多调整薪资的办法及留任的措施，希望留住更多的资深的护理人员，或者能请护理师回任。
A newly graduated nursing school class offers some hope. But nurses groups say the government needs to offer subsidies not just to those who work certain shifts on the hospital floor, but also to those who work in surgery and emergency medicine. And above all, they say there's no way to attract new nurses into hospitals without higher salaries, something they say will have to come from greater national health insurance payouts to hospitals. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Rights groups say Taiwan is not doing enough to stop the abuse of migrant workers on long-haul fishing boats. The issue is a blot on the country's otherwise relatively strong human rights record, with reports of punishing work hours as well as verbal and physical abuse at sea. Once again, John Van Trieste reports.
It's year 2 of a 4-year plan to clean up abuses in Taiwan's deep-sea fishing fleet. Mistreatment of the Southeast Asian migrant workers that keep the fleet running has attracted international attention and threats of sanctions from the US and EU. But while Taiwan's plan addresses issues like wages, NGOs say major questions remain. One is whether the plan does enough to prevent forced labor.
法规仍然允许渔船在海上停留高达10个月的时间哦。相对来讲，国际劳工组织已经把3个月作为强迫劳动的一个警讯。
Restricted internet access for fishers is another issue. Just 98 ships, 10% of Taiwan's distant water fleet, have onboard Wi-Fi. And rights groups say the recommended allowance of 3 hours access per day is not enough. A lack of access to the outside world is something fishers themselves say takes a serious toll on them.
Karena pengalaman selama ini kan, saya pernah juga sampai lebih 10 bulan. Kita juga kadang kalau nggak ada komunikasi itu, fishmandis kita itu benar-benar terganggu. Fisik, mental, dan spiritual kita itu merasa goncang banget.
And then there are concerns about the way checks on ships are outsourced to third parties. NGOs worry ship owners could have their own employees do inspections and have them falsify their findings.
所以这个就是球员兼裁判，这个就是剥削产业链。
Taiwan's fisheries agency says it's grateful for any constructive criticism, but it also stands by what it says its action plan has achieved over the last 2 years. That includes rules about living conditions that it says its agents enforce not just in Taiwan, but in ports overseas.
我们当初就调整提高薪水，从450块美金1个月提高到550块美金。那目前也在持续检讨怎么样再去提升他们的相关待遇。那在整个那个工作时间的部分，因为过去蛮多人批评在台湾的远洋渔船工作时间都是超过正常的工作时间，所以我们要求在船上你必须建立你的工时登记。
But NGOs say they will keep the pressure on the government to ensure Taiwanese fishing operators respect the rights of their crew members. Chris Ma and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out this newly opened care center for injured koalas in Australia. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.